Alright, today lesson 17 is solving equations and inequalities with absolute values. Alright, so we've got this equation, absolute value of x minus 4 equals 7. Now remember, absolute value stands for the distance from 0. It can be positive, it can be negative, we're just talking about the distance, so you could get an x value in here that's negative or positive, like I just said, but when it comes out of the absolute value, we're talking distance. So whenever it comes out, it always has to be positive. Alright, so your first step to doing these is we've got to get rid of this absolute value sign. Well, how do we do that? We split it into two equations. Your first step is anything outside the absolute value sign, anything out here or behind it, has to go to the other side. We don't have anything here, so we're ready for the next step. Our next step is to split it into two equations. So x minus 4 equals 7, and x minus 4 equals, now this is where it's different, to get rid of your absolute value, for the first one we just rewrite the first equation without the absolute value sign. For the second one, we have to run a negative through the answer. So that would be a negative 7 there. And now we've got two equations. We solve both of these for x. X has to equal 11, and x can equal negative 3. Alright, I strongly recommend when you do these to say, well, I'm going to check these to make sure that they work. Alright, because not always do they work. Alright, so negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7, absolute value of that is 7. 11 minus 4 is 7, absolute value of 7 is 7. So both of these do work. Alright, like I said, not always will they work though. With our next one, I see this negative 4 out here. Yes, I've got an absolute value, I need to deal with it. But before I deal with it, this 4 has got to go to the other side. So we've got absolute value of 3x plus 1 equals 10. Now, since there's nothing over here except for the absolute value, now I need to split these into two equations. 3x plus 1 equals 10. 3x plus 1 equals, run the negative through the answer, negative 10. Notice that what is inside the absolute value sign stays the same for both of these. Alright, from here, subtract 1 is 9, divide by 3 is 3. Subtract 1 is negative 11, divided by 3 is negative 11 thirds. Now, like I said before, plug these in to make sure it works. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, absolute value of 10 is 10, minus 4 is 6. This one works. Plug in negative 11 thirds. 3 times negative 11 thirds, the 3 cancel. So, negative 11 plus 1 is negative 10, absolute value of that is positive 10, minus 4 is 6. So this also works. Make sure you check them though. Alright, our next one. Well, if we follow our steps on the last one, well, we see that everything is on the other side. So we're ready to go. Split it into 2. So 9x plus 7 equals negative 2, and 9x plus 7 equals positive 2, running a negative through the answer. And then we just solve this. So 9x equals negative 9, x equals negative 1. Over here, 9x equals, subtract 7, we get negative 5. X equals negative 5 ninths. Let's plug it in and see if it works. 9 times negative 1 is negative 9. Plus 7 is negative 2, but we still got to take the absolute value of it. 2 does not equal negative 2. That doesn't work. X equals negative 5 ninths. We plug that in. 9 times negative 5 ninths is negative 5, plus 7 is 2. Once again, it's not equal to negative 2. Neither one of those work. your answer here would be a no solution. And you can actually tell that from the original problem. If you look up here, absolute value means anything that comes out of here has to be a positive number. So how can it equal a negative number? No matter what we throw in for x, we're never going to get a negative number there. Alright, so there's no way we can get an answer there. So that's why our answer is no solution. Alright, now be careful though, I'm not going to do this, but say that I had this equation. Alright, based on that, if we were to look at that, well, there's our negative, we gotta have no solution. But that's forgetting the first step. The first step is to move anything outside the absolute value sign to the other side. When we do that, we end up with it equaling 8 when we add the 12 over. Now that's positive, now we can get two answers out of this. You need to do that first before you make any decisions on this problem, okay? You can solve that one, not a big deal. We'll move on to the next one. So now this next one, we've got x's on both sides. No big deal. You do it the exact same way. So, absolute value is the only thing on this side, everything to the other side. So now we're ready to split them. One's a positive answer. The other one is a negative answer. Solve for x. Well, this time we've got to move our 4x over. So we got to subtract 4x. That means 12 equals 4x, x equals 3. And we move this over. 12 equals negative 12x. X has to equal negative 1. Plug these in. 12 plus 12 is 24 equals 24. That works. Does this one work? Negative 4 plus 12 is 8. Absolute value of that is 8. 8 times 1 is negative 8. This one doesn't work. And if you think about it, based on this same logic here, if we plug in negative 1 here, that makes this a negative 8. There's no way that I can get a negative value to come out of absolute value to make it equal negative 8. So that's why this one doesn't work. This would be an example of one where you could have just one solution. Alright, going to the next ones. We can have absolute value problems that are inequalities too. You do the same stuff. Your first step, move everything over to the other side. X minus 9 is by itself, so we're ready to split this. X minus 9 is less than or equal to 3. X minus 9. Now we're running a negative through the answer. When we're doing that with an inequality, we're like, this is like multiplying by negative 1. We've got to flip the sign here. So this is negative 3. We add 9 to both sides. X is less than or equal to 12. Okay, we add 9 over here. X is greater than or equal to 6. So we are thinking that our answer is greater than 6. So x greater than or equal to 6 and less than or equal to 12. Well, let's test that out. Let's throw a 7 in there. 7 minus 9 is negative 2. Absolute value of negative 2 is 2, which is less than 3. So that does work. Say I wanted to test it some more. Say I wanted to put a 5 in there. We don't think it's going to work, but let's try it. 5 minus 9 is negative 4. Absolute value of negative 4 is 4, which is not less than 3. So 5 doesn't work. Will 13 work? 13 minus 9 is 4, which is not less than 3 either. So we just proved that that is our answer. All right. With our next one, everything is over to the other side. We're ready to split them. 3x minus 6 is less than negative 3. So we add 6 to both sides, divide by 3. Add 6 is 9, divided by 3 is 3. Add 6 is 3, divided by 3 is 1. So we're thinking x is greater than 3 or x is less than 1. Well, let's try it. 4, 12 minus 6 is 6 divided by 3 is, 12 minus 6 is 6, which is greater than 3. Throw in a 0, 0 minus 6 is negative 6, absolute value is 6, which is also greater than 3. Does it work in between? Well, a 2 would be in between. 3 times 2 is 6, minus 6 is 0, absolute value of 0 is not greater than 3. So both of these would work. Let's come down to the last one here. Now this is where we've got to do a bunch of stuff before we can split it. So we've got to subtract 5, which means it's equal to 3, divide by negative 3. So absolute value of 4x is greater than or equal to negative 1 because we're dividing by negative. Switch the sign. Now, what we have to do is we're ready to split them. 4x greater than or equal to negative 1. 4x less than or equal to positive 1. Alright, divide by 4. X greater than or equal to negative 1/4. And x less than or equal to positive 1/4. Notice this, greater than 1/4, less than 1/4. Okay, doesn't that sound like everything? Everything greater than negative 1/4, but less than 1/4? I'm thinking that every answer is going to work here. But let's test it. Let's throw a 0 in here because 0 is greater than 1/4. We do that, it works. We throw in a negative 2, that also works. This is all real solutions. Alright, any questions with this, please let me know.